All right, we've got a story for you today. It's about a simple childhood prank that absolutely spiraled into a school talent show performance so legendary and so catastrophically wrong that I promise you, no one who was there could ever forget it. So, think about it for a second. What's the most awkward, cringy thing you've ever witnessed at a school show? Got it in your head? Okay, well, I'm willing to bet that this story from 1996 is going to top it. By a lot. Let's set the scene. The year is 1996. You're in a packed elementary school cafeteria. It's a night assembly, it's standing room only. The air is buzzing. You've got parents with those giant shoulder-mounted camcorders everywhere, ready to capture a precious memory. And up next, the kindergarten class. So how in the world did we get here? Well, it all started with a simple prank. Just a joke between a fifth-grade brother and his 5-year-old sister that kind of snowballed into something way, way bigger. And this right here really tells you everything you need to know. On one side, you've got that huge 90s anthem, I Believe I Can Fly. Totally inspirational stuff. And on the other side, you've got the Ghetto version that our narrator taught his little sister. The difference is, well, it's pretty stark. And you can just see the dominoes fall one after the other. First, the brother teaches his sister the parody. Then their mom hears it, she's horrified, and tells her, "You will not sing that song." But what does a 5-year-old do? She goes straight to school and teaches it to her entire class. And then, in the final, fateful twist, the teacher hears it, thinks she's found a star in the making, and makes her the lead singer. Perfect storm. And this is the crucial moment. The teacher, in her mind, has just discovered this raw, amazing talent. She has no idea what's really going on. So she proudly hands this little girl the microphone, completely clueless about the lyrical disaster she's about to unleash on a room full of unsuspecting parents. Which brings us right to the moment of truth. The performance itself. A song that I guarantee you nobody in that cafeteria would ever forget. So the piano player starts that beautiful, familiar intro. The entire kindergarten class is up on stage looking adorable. The narrator's little sister is right at the front holding the mic, and they all start to sing in this perfect angelic chorus, I Believe I Can Fly. I got shot by the FBI. And just silence. The whole vibe in the room just completely changes in a split second. You could have heard a pin drop. Can you imagine? The reaction was, well, exactly what you'd expect. Just complete and utter shock. The narrator, who was only 10 years old at the time, said it perfectly. I could see the white in their eyeballs popping out. Just a sea of frozen faces. Parents, teachers, everyone. But the kids on stage, oh, they're just getting started. They're in the zone, following their lead singer, and they just keep going. Totally oblivious. All I wanted was some chicken wings, a 6-pack, and some pork and beans. Meanwhile, while the audience is just stunned, the narrator's mom is experiencing a whole other level of horror. He describes her hand gripping his leg so hard that, quote, her nails were piercing my knee. Just pure, absolute mortification. And the verse wraps up with this cinematic finish, all sung by these innocent kindergartners. They got me as I'm running through an open door. And then, of course, they launch right back into a totally earnest, soaring rendition of the original chorus, I Believe I Can Fly. The contrast is just unbelievable. So the song ends. You can imagine maybe some very confused, hesitant applause. And what follows immediately is a very angry mom demanding some answers from a very, very confused teacher. As soon as the performance is over, the narrator's mom marches right up to that teacher. And you can just feel the quiet fury in her voice as she asks, why would you feel comfortable with these children singing a song with those words? Now listen to this, because the teacher's response explains everything. It's the key to the whole mess. With total 100% sincerity, she just says, well, I thought that's how the song was sung. I'd never heard it before your daughter was singing it in class. She genuinely had no clue. And that brings us to the final chapter of the evening, the ride home, also known as the long, quiet drive of shame. The narrator says the rest of the assembly was just a blur, but that car ride home, he remembers that with crystal clarity. It was angry, and it was so quiet. The kind of crushing silence that's actually way louder than yelling. And this is what's so fascinating, even all these years later. The narrator is left with these questions. Like, what were the other parents talking about in their cars on the way home? This was a multiracial school, so how did all these different families process what they just saw? 5-year-olds singing about the FBI and chicken wings. Those conversations must have been wildly different from car to car. And really, it all boils down to this, doesn't it? What happens when pure childhood innocence, that simple joy of singing a funny song you learned, crashes headfirst into a world of cultural references it just doesn't understand yet? It is a hilarious story for sure, but it's also this incredible snapshot of a moment where different worlds just accidentally and very, very publicly collided.
Okay, so picture this. It's the mid-90s, maybe 96, 97. You're in a packed school cafeteria for a night assembly. Standing room only, camcorders are everywhere, and everyone's waiting for this, super wholesome kindergarten performance. A 5-year-old steps up to the mic, and what happens next? Well, it turns this whole event into something culturally explosive, an absolute legend of a family story.
It is a truly jaw-dropping account, and it's exactly what we're going into today. We're going to dissect this one single narrative. It's this perfect storm of R. Kelly's biggest hit, a forbidden parody, and the total innocence of 5-year-olds.
And the reaction in the room is just incredible. It goes from this uncontrollable, gut-busting laughter from the narrator to just instant public horror for his mother. So our mission today is to really unpack that tension, to look at the huge cultural gap this whole thing revealed.
Yeah, and to really think about how all the different families at this multi-race school must have processed what they were hearing.
So let's set the scene. The person telling the story, the narrator, is in 5th grade, so 10, maybe 11 years old. And his little sister, the star of our show, is 5. She's in kindergarten.
And the key detail here is that they've recently moved to a new elementary school.
Yeah.
That's the origin point for this whole incident.
Right. So the older brother, he learns what the source calls the Ghetto version of R. Kelly's I Believe I Can Fly.
Which was, it was everywhere at the time, a massive inspirational anthem.
Exactly. But this version, this was like a cultural artifact circulating among the older kids at his new school.
And what does any good older sibling do with forbidden knowledge?
You immediately teach it to your younger sister, of course, and
Yeah.
she picks it up instantly, loves it, starts singing it absolutely everywhere.
Which naturally is when their mother hears it.
Oh.
And she just drops the hammer. The parental prohibition comes down hard. The rule was, crystal clear. You sing the correct version or no version at all.
A very hard line, non-negotiable. And this is where I think the unintentional genius of a 5-year-old just takes over. She gets that it's forbidden, but instead of forgetting it, she takes this talent to school with her.
Exactly. And her kindergarten teacher, who is just completely oblivious to the parody's existence. She hears this little girl singing, and she just hears a great voice.
She hears talent.
She hears talent, and she thinks, you're the lead singer for the assembly. You get the microphone.
Yeah.
The stage is literally set for a social catastrophe of, Shakespearean proportions.
It really is. The whole school is gathered, the lights go down, the piano player comes out, and you can imagine the mom is just sitting there, maybe breathing a little sigh of relief, phew, I haven't heard that awful song in a few days.
And then the pianist announces, the kindergarten class will be singing, I Believe I Can Fly.
That had to be the first jolt of fear.
Oh, for sure. You can just feel the air pressure drop right in that one little section of the cafeteria.
Yeah.
She knows what her daughter's capable of.
And then the performance starts. The little sister steps up, grabs the microphone, and the narrator says she does not miss a note nor mess up one word.
And she is singing the parody version.
The forbidden version, with all the confidence in the world, and the entire mood in the room just... It shifts on a dime.
And you see this immediate split in how people are processing it. For the older brother, the narrator, this is the payoff of a lifetime. He just says it was hilarious.
Of course, he's in on the joke. He knows the secret, and seeing it performed so publicly is just pure comedic gold.
But the mother's reaction, that tells you everything about the emotional weight of this moment. It's just pure, uncut public panic.
Yeah, the detail he gives is so visceral. He says his mother's hand was gripping my thigh, and he could feel her nails piercing my knee.
Wow, that physical pain says it all.
Right.
That's not just, oh, this is embarrassing. That is a physical attempt to control something that is completely out of her control. It's fear of judgment, fear of what this says about her family, in front of the whole community.
And if you zoom out from that one family to the rest of the audience, The feeling was just immediate collective shock. He says everyone was just in shock.
And the description he uses is so powerful.
It is. He says, I could see the white in their eyes, balls popping out.
That is such a specific image. It's that universal moment of, wait, did I just hear what I think I heard? The sound of 100 jaws hitting the floor at once. It goes from a cute school play to something else entirely.
And that something else is all packed into the lyrics. The actual words these kids are singing. The original song is all about aspiration, and this is the complete opposite.
Precisely. We have to actually look at the words because it's what turns this from a funny mistake into like a piece of accidental socio-political theater.
Okay, so let's hear the lines again. This is what the kindergarten class was singing.
They sang, I believe I can fly. I got shot by the FBI. All I wanted was some chicken wings, a six-pack, and some pork and beans.
Wow.
And it continues. The next verse is, I believe I could soar. They got me as I'm running through an open door.
Just hearing it laid out like that is some incredibly dense cultural commentary for, 1997. You're putting the ultimate, failure of the American dream getting shot by federal law enforcement. Right next to the most basic, everyday comfort foods, chicken wings, pork and beans.
It's jarring. And that's why the parody works. It mashes up tragedy and just total banality. And in the mid-90s, this is the era of the 94 crime bill, there were these heightened narratives around hyper-policing, especially in urban communities.
For some parents in that audience, hearing 5-year-olds sing about getting shot by the FBI over, a can of pork and beans, that's not just some crude joke.
Not at all. For some, that could be a really raw, really painful echo of a specific social anxiety.
Yeah.
It's taking a painful reality and, putting it into the mouth of a child, which makes it even more shocking.
Which explains why the mother was so furious. The performance ends, the polite, confused applause dies down, and she makes a beeline for the teacher.
Right. The confrontation was inevitable.
And her question is perfectly logical. She asks, why would you feel comfortable with these children singing a song with those words?
And this moment right here is where that massive cultural gulf just gets put on full display. The teacher, who the source notes is Caucasian, gives a defense that, well, it says everything about the cultural insulation that existed in some of these school systems.
What was her excuse? It's just unbelievable.
Well, I thought that's how the song was sung. I'd never heard it before. Your daughter was singing it in class.
Wait, what?
Yes.
She genuinely believed that R. Kelly's global smash hit, the song from Space Jam,
The graduation anthem,
was actually about being gunned down by the FBI over a six-pack and some pork and beans.
That's her story, and she's sticking to it. And look, was she maybe lying to save face? It's possible. But it's almost more believable that it was just a complete and total cultural blind spot, that her world was so insulated that the idea of a famous song having this kind of dark satirical counter-narrative it didn't compute.
So she just saw a little girl with a good voice. She had no idea she was broadcasting a socio-political statement to the entire PTA.
None. The disconnect is it's staggering. For the mother, this is a moment of deep public shame. For the teacher, it's an unfortunate song choice she thought was the original. Two completely different worlds in one very awkward cafeteria.
So as you'd expect, the ride home was tense.
I can only imagine.
The narrator just says the mother was very angry, and it was a very quiet ride home.
And he adds this really insightful detail about how they learned to cope. He says they learned to block out the times our mother blacks out on us, which tells you this wasn't just a simple telling off. This was a major event.
But the really fascinating part, I think, is when he shifts focus from his own family to the wider audience. He says he always wondered what the other parents' response to this was.
And that's the real deep dive, isn't it? Because we know it was a multi-race colored school. The conversations happening in all those other cars on the way home, they must have been so different.
Let's just try to imagine those conversations. For the parents who, understood the cultural context of the parody, this probably wasn't funny at all.
Not at all. For those families, hearing their 5-year-olds sing those lyrics could have been deeply upsetting. A traumatic public echo of fears they try to shield their kids from.
Yeah, their question would be, why is the school allowing this? Why isn't anyone paying attention? The offense level would have been through the roof.
Exactly. But then you've got the other side. The parents whose experience was probably closer to the teachers. For them, this might have been just outrageously funny. Satire. Because they had zero personal connection to the gravity of the lyrics.
Right. They would have just seen it as, kids saying absurd things, just a performance gone hilariously wrong. They wouldn't have understood that for other people in that same room, It wasn't abstract at all.
And that's why this story is such a perfect snapshot of that time. You have the innocence of the kids totally separate from the weight of the words they're singing. And the school assembly accidentally becomes this stage for a real charged cultural moment about race, about policing, about poverty, and about who gets to decide what's just a joke.
So we've taken this one incredible story and unpacked its emotional core, the brother's laughter, the mother's terror, and we connected that family's shockwave to the massive cultural disconnect that the teacher's defense just perfectly illustrates.
And as you think about this moment from the mid-90s, this cultural signal broadcast by a kindergarten class, here's a final thought to leave you with. Of all the vivid details we talked about, the perfect performance of forbidden words, a mother's nails digging into a leg, a teacher's confusion, which specific detail do you think landed most differently among all those diverse families driving home that night? Because that one shared moment, experienced in so many wildly different ways, it's really a fascinating window into the unspoken realities of that era.
I'm calling this presentation a performance to never forget. So before I get started, I gotta set the scene. I'm gonna take y'all back with me to 1996. We're gonna be in a cafeteria at an elementary school. The place was crowded, okay? It was an after-school assembly, and all the parents of the children that attended the school plus the staff were there. There was recorders on tripods, but like the old school recorders, the ones where you could stick a VHS tape in, big things. They were everywhere. It looked like when the White House gives an announcement and it's all the paparazzi there. That's what it looked like. So the school that this is my younger sister's school. This was my school too when I was going to kindergarten and first grade, but I transferred to another elementary school. I'm in 5th grade at the time of this story. Also, there's a hit song going on at the time called I Believe I Can Fly by R. Kelly. And the lyrics to the original song is, I believe I can fly, I believe I can touch the sky, I think about it every night and day, I spread my wings and fly away, I believe I can soar, you see me running through that open door, I believe I can fly, I believe I can fly. Those are the words, okay? Well, while I was attending my new elementary school, I learned from the kids there the ghetto version of I Believe I Can Fly. And I went home and took it and taught it to my little sister, who was in love with it. Now, mind you, I'm 10, she's 5. But she thought that version was much more fun to sing. And even when I wasn't around, she was singing it, and our mother caught wind and told her, what you won't do is you won't keep singing the wrong version of that song in this house. Either sing the right version or don't sing any version at all. So my little sister took it upon herself to take it to school. And she started singing it around her class, her kindergarten class. So fast forward back to that night. My mother and I are sitting next to each other. I'm seeing people that I used to know when I attended to school. It's a good vibe. Everything's going good, right? The pianist comes up and says, and she announces that this kindergarten class is about to come up to perform. You see the kids come in a line, they get all set up. The teacher, my little sister's teacher, hands her the microphone and sets her up, and she's standing a little in front of the rest of the class because she's going to be leading the performance. We're excited, okay? Now, at this moment in time, we don't quite know what they're going to sing. But the pianist says, this class will be singing I Believe I Can Fly. All right, cool. Everybody's waiting. The camcorders are going. The room is silent. The music starts. The pianist starts with the intro. And next thing you know, you hear my little sister and her classmates sing I Believe I Can Fly. They were singing it on point. And they weren't missing a note and wasn't messing up on a word. They didn't sing the original version. They were singing the ghetto version, which is, I believe I can fly. I got shot by the FBI. All I wanted was some chicken wings, a 6-pack and some pork and beans. I believe I can soar. They got me as I'm running through an open door. I believe I can fly, I believe I can fly, I believe I can fly. I can feel my mother grab my thigh. She was grabbing it so hard I could feel her nails piercing my knee. It felt like an eagle holding on to a tree about to fall off a mountain. Okay, she was ripping the hell out of my leg. And she was living. I thought it was hilarious. Though in pain at the time, I thought it was so funny. They finished singing. It's not really an applaud situation, bro. You can see the eyeballs of these parents were hilarious. It's like their eyeballs popped out of their head, like in shock, right? After it's over, my mom darted to the teacher. And mind you, she's pulling me along. And she's asking the teacher, she says, can I ask you a question? Why were you comfortable allowing those children to sing that song with those words? And the teacher, who is a Caucasian lady, okay, give her a little pass, okay? She said, I thought those were the words of the song. I'd never heard that song before prior to your daughter singing it in class. Mom's face just drops. She is enraged. I don't remember a lot about much after we left that night. I remember the car ride being very quiet. My sister and I we had learned this behavior to block out whenever our mother blacked out on us. Till this day, I still find the story to be hilarious, right? But what also I think about sometimes is, what did the other parents say? What was the conversation like after this? This was a multicolored race school, so you have different age groups and all this. I just wondered, after seeing a bunch of 5 and 6 year olds say that they got shot by the FBI while at the store getting some chicken wings and 6-pack and pork.